in life, there are just some things that you can't be late for. Now you're disrupting other people who were on time. Those people who are pushing those gates and the security guards aside, they are wrong. So what is up with your crowd control that can allow for a video like this to happen? Gates to be taken off their hinges, people to be pushed and squashed against a fence.
Anele and the club
on 947.
So let me bring you up to speed here. And I'm hoping we're posting this video again on our social media platform so that if you haven't seen it, you have a chance to see it again. I come across this video and it looks like a protest, right? And in my mind, I'm like, oh, where are we protesting now? What are we protesting?
And the thing is, as soon as you see, and this is always my thing, as soon as I see a group of people, and in this case, like really nicely dressed,
dude,
trying to break down a gate, you feel like someone's keeping someone out.
I'll tell you what drew my attention to it, because I mean, with the world, there's a protest all the time. You kind of become desensitized to it. But there was a mom, and you could check, she was wearing a 2-piece pastel suit, and she was getting pushed against a gate, and then the gate kind of falls over, and then instead of her, because she's free now, right, to run. And instead of her running, she turns to signal to someone, come, let's go. And at which point I'm like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because the only reason, and Cindy, you'll attest to this because you're a parent of 2 girls, the only reason you would, as a human being, you know, forget that you are free to be safe and to turn around and wait for someone, it means that your child is there.
Yeah, somebody that you value more than yourself
exactly
is with you.
Yes, so it means your child is there, and you there's no way you're going to leave without your child. So she turns around and she's signaling to this person, come back, come. And then I see security guards trying to hold them off. And then through the security guards and through all of this turmoil, one little person breaks through almost like
a guy in a black suit.
It breaks through like a rugby scrum and makes a break for it, and they're dressed in a graduation attire. So I'm like, wait, is this a graduation? Is this a university? And then I ask on Twitter, what's going on here? And then people come and say, no, this was at UJ, there was a graduation. So immediately I start blaming UJ. I'm like, UJ, what's happening here? You know, obviously to myself. Then the more I read the comments, that no, these people were late. And not by 10 minutes, not by 20 minutes. They were late by a sizable amount. And UJ, as a varsity, have got a rule that says, if you are late for your graduation, you do not go in because you are now going to delay the rest of the procession.
Yeah.
A debate then ensues, right? Because obviously...
Because it still feels a little unfair. Because you're like,
it's like you studied for 4 years. You know, parents drove from Limpopo, parents caught buses from Durban, grandparents have never left, you know, Nelspruit, and now because you're graduating, they're coming in. So obviously there should be leniency. So the more and more I dig around it, the more you realize, oh, you know, when we always say 2 things can be right.
Yeah, I think for me, having seen the video is okay. So I get the rules about. Because one person who actually, when we said we'd be talking about this, a tweet said, well, there's a rule at UJ that they will shut the doors, I think, 15 minutes before the session starts.
Yeah.
Great. I appreciate that. So what do we do then about the people who are late? What is the level of security? Because I don't know if you remember, a few years ago at UJ, when they eventually stopped walk-in applications, there was actually a stampede where a parent died. So what's the thing around crowd control? Because people will gather. What do you do with the late people?
In fact, at UJ, there's a memoriam. Gloria Sikwena was the parent that died, and one of the entrances, there's a memoriam up, in remembrance of her. So UJ knows these problems, and that's what I thought to myself. Guys, we can sit here every year and talk about this, but something has to be done. I think that there should be measures, and especially if you are an institution that is dealing with thousands of people on the daily anyway, I think you should have some sort of stampede control in order, because looking at that video, put rules aside, that shouldn't happen.
Because it's a dangerous situation, guys, because do you know how quickly stampedes happen? Once people start running and pushing, and someone is pushing back from the other side, you look at that, and then before you know it, people are stepping on each other and people die.
That video that I watched, easy. Anyone could have died. And that's why I asked. I was like, what is going on here? Thank you so much to Prof Van Vuuren, who's the registrar at UJ, for jumping on board and chatting to us. Good morning, Prof. Welcome to Anele and the club.
Morning, Anele. Morning to everybody there.
Morning.
Thank you so much for your time. So the first question is, can you tell us what's happening there? Because we've all got our idea what's happening there. But I mean, you as the registrar at UJ, you know exactly what was happening there. Please give us your account.
Thank you very much. And I was listening to your intro, and I just have to echo what you said. You know, I had flashbacks when I saw the video to what happened a few years ago, and it was not a good feeling at all. So we have been, we've been doing it on a regular basis in any case, but have had lots of conversations around what happened, how do we prevent that from happening again? These are graduations really are such wonderful special days, and to sit in that audience, to be there. Anele, if I'm not mistaken, you are a UJ graduate.
No, I'm not. Tano Tabete is our afternoon drive jog. It's Tando.
Wonderful. But just to go through this and to be that, to be in that graduation ceremony with your family is such a special and momentous occasion. Just to give a little bit of so UJ graduates between 13 and 14,000 students every year. We typically invite around 230 graduates to each of our ceremonies, and each of those graduates then get 3 guest tickets as well. So our auditorium, we basically, if all the graduates and their guests come, we basically fill our auditorium to capacity. So safety, orderliness and safety is always paramount for us. We've looked at the times of our graduation sessions. We have one at 9:30 in the morning and sort of midday at 1 and 4:30, and we actually adjusted the times because it used to start early in the morning at 9. And we've actually made it 30 minutes later to allow people more time to get here, to get onto campus, to try and leave.
It sounds like you're running an airport, actually. This sounds like an airport.
This is what we do.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is like taking a flight. You have to be, the flights leave on time because there are many other planes that are in a holding pattern. So one plane that's delayed because someone is not on time, someone didn't check their bags in on time, someone's sitting in a coffee shop, having a muffin before they get to the boarding gate. Those gates close, and we really run a tight ship, and it is because we're working with very, very large numbers.
What happens if I am late? Because, you say that you graduate close to 14,000 students a year. A good chunk of those students, they don't live in Johannesburg. Their families are coming from Durban. They're catching buses, taxis, catching a lift from all across the country, sometimes all across the continent. So you will have people who are late, right? So what happens when you are faced with, I'd say, 60 people who are late? Are they not allowed to come inside the auditorium, and why?
They're not allowed to come into the auditorium because, it's quite important that there are many people. So let's use the flight analogy again. There are many people that are on time, that's sitting in the plane waiting to, for the plane to take off. And now we're sitting on the runway or, at the dock to the airport terminal for an hour because we're waiting for 2 or 3 or 5 passengers that are late. You are well aware of when it starts. But having said that, we are very aware, as you say, people come from far. This is such a special day. They often have to make use of public transport. They come from
which
far.
You can't determine when a taxi is going to leave.
Someone might be late.
Exactly. Someone may be late. So what we do specifically to prevent stampedes and so is that we have several sort of gates in place. So we will block you or you won't be allowed to come onto campus if you're coming for graduation if you really are late. So we've worked out how long it will take because remember, people need to come in. They need to get their seating cards, they need to get their gowns, they need to book their pictures, which are absolutely fantastic, and they can hang that on their walls. So what we do is we close the gates at specific times, to allow for crowd control. What happened here is that some of the outer gates we close a little bit before, because if you are not outside the auditorium getting your gown,
by a specific time.
At a specific time.
You're not going to make the graduate. Okay.
You're not going to make it. So we then allow, and we do that also to, allow everybody that was on time their moment, on stage and not to be disrupted. If you are late for a ceremony, is once the ceremony has started, we actually open the gates, we allow you in. we've put together what we call an overflow venue. So you then go into that overflow venue with your guests. Although you're not crossing the stage, you are part of the ceremony. We live stream it to the overflow
So
venue.
to not to disrupt the actual ceremony that's happening inside the auditorium where people were there on time. But now my question, okay, so these are lovely measures that you put in place. My cry is this specific video shows that your crowd control is not up to standard. Because now I'm not talking about being late. They're late, they're not going to make it, right? But now clearly they get aggressive. What are you doing when it comes to your actual crowd control now? Do you not feel let down when you watch that video? Do you not think as a varsity, you think to yourself, hey, we need to talk to our security company or whoever the company is that we've hired to do our crowd control? Because if they are being challenged like this, then there's a problem. And I'm not saying that the people who are challenging them are right. Those people who are pushing those gates and the security guards aside, emotional and sentimental as it may be, they are wrong. But think of like F&B. Like if we are fans and we want to storm the field, you know, the fans are wrong, but now you have to anticipate that there will be wrong fans in the crowd. So what is up with your crowd control that can allow for a video like this to happen? Gates to be taken off their hinges, people to be pushed and squashed against a fence.
The people that you would see on the video, they are not our university protection services. We oversee it, we manage it, but this is outsourced specifically to companies that specialize in this. We've been having lots of discussions. We will have discussions again this morning.
They let you down.
But we're having those discussions. But, you know, as you also said, Anele, we communicate. I think the students, you know, with graduation are... You know, they get frustrated because here comes another message from the University of Johannesburg saying, please be on time, you know, please do this. This is what you can expect on the day. Allow some time for this, allow some time. So we really over-communicate. It's a pity that these things happen, but I mean, we're having lots of discussions subsequent. Also, in a few minutes, I will walk up there and meet with people again just to walk through this and to see how do we smooth it even further. But just, you know, for our listeners out there, if you are late, it's a pity, and I understand that sadness and, you know, that you feel that you've missed your moment.
Yeah.
But we do have things in place to help you to still be part of it, to feel
Prof,
part of it, to celebrate afterwards. And
Can I ask, because we were talking about this off air now, and there's a desperation in those people trying to get in. Do the people understand that even if you're not on stage, you're still getting your degree, you're still getting your certificate, you'll still receive it? You might not have your moment. Is that communicated? Because it just feels like
they feel like if they don't get on stage, they're not going to graduate.
Yeah, it
right?
feels like, what is the sentiment of that crowd? Is that what's going through their minds? If I don't get there, I won't actually get my graduation.
So the moment that students are signed off as graduates, so be that in December or so, they already, so they won't at that stage get their certificates, but they get their academic records, they get their letters confirming that
so they know that they will get their degree, regardless of whether they're on stage. Yeah, you see.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, people pick those degrees up afterwards. It's communicated that if you can, because remember that there are many graduates that can't be there on the day for whatever reason. So, you know, there's a lot, you know, they can go to the faculty offices anytime afterwards and pick it at their own convenience then and pick it up. So you don't, and I think this is a misconception, I mean, that day is for you to have your moment of your graduation, to walk across the stage. But whether you are there or not, it doesn't impact whether you've graduated or not. You are still a graduate. You still have your qualification.
Prof, thank you so much for your time. Speaking of time, we are out of it. We could talk to you for longer. And I like this. This is very brave. Not many institutions would come out after something like that happens and talk. So I like that UJ is graduating 14,000 kids a year.
That's
Love
amazing.
that. Keep that up, guys. And also I like that when situations like this happen, they don't shy away from the problem. They come and they speak about it. And as you heard, all the measures are in place. They try their best to make sure that everybody is catered to, regardless of how wrong they may be. I just feel like the company you hire to do crowd control, they let you down here, because that showed nothing of control for me.
Yeah.
Nothing. In life, there are just some things that you can't be late for. You know, and it's a discipline that has to be instilled in you whilst you're still a kid. And I get that there are factors that can, deter you from being on time, and life. And UJ say that we provide for that. There's an overflow area. But the truth of the matter is, we can't disrupt 1,000 other people because 20 are late because of their circumstance. We've made a plan for you. There's an overflow area. Come in, and that's where you sit. You can't want to force yourself into going into the graduation procession, because now you're disrupting other people who were on time. Think about a flight. Even if you go to, when you're going for surgery, when they say you must be here at 6 o'clock in the morning and you can't have eaten for the past 12 hours, you can't go against that. Otherwise, you're not going to have your operation.
You won't have an operation.
You're not going to have your operation. And the anesthetist is here for you at 6:30. We can't wait for you. And there's just, if you can't learn it by getting your degree, that you can't be late for certain things, it's teaching you how you're going to act at work. Are you going to be late at work continuously with excuses?
No, exactly.
Like we say, there are special circumstances.
Well, there's always
where you're
circumstances where you might be late. The question is, how do you react in that moment if you're on the other side of the gate? And the question we're asking is, what is the crowd control doing?
There's a definite erosion in some sort of societal keeping to time. These days, time is like a suggestion. When you say 2 o'clock, people arrive at 3:15. Dumza, good morning.
Morning.
How are you, Dumza? You say you are a UJ graduate, eh?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so you're very skilled to talk about this. Talk to us.
All right. So, I'm a very old UJ graduate. I graduated 2009 and again in 2010. And I have to say, they really do over-communicate. They ask you to be there an hour early. That 9:30 is just, guys, we're starting at 9:30. But please be here by 8:30 so that you can get your gowns. They calculate the time that it's going to take you to walk. They even say in some of their communication, if you know you're coming with a grandmother and you're going to need a wheelchair, please let us know. They will cart elderly people as far as they can. They really carry the students on their back. And people just have no respect for time. And I remember with my first degree, there were people who were knocking on the door. So, the procession has started. People are talking on the stage. But because they're disgruntled that they've kept them out the door, they're knocking on the door. So it takes away the moment for us because of other people who've just disregarded the rules and say, well, I'm late and I'm here and I'm still here. And UJ has really struggled with this for many years. That's why I'm like, it's really not their fault. People okay, I'm here, I want to be seen on the stage. And that's why I said, it's not your wedding. You can't be 4 hours late and think your guests are going to wait for you.
I even think, even if it is your wedding, even if it is your wedding, time is perhaps the most valuable of currencies that we have as humans. Right? And when you're wasting someone's time, you are really telling them that I do not respect you at all. Right? And so, I'm so glad you came in and said this, because, when we're speaking to Prof Van Vuuren, she says that gate that we see in that video, that's even a gate that's not even close to a procession. They're basically saying, and now I know why they had to do that, why they had to block people far away from the hall. It's because, like you say now, Tumza, is that when they get to the door, even if it's locked, then they bang on the door.
They knock.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And then you're disrupting the whole procession for 2,000 other people who were there on time, who want to hear their names being called out, whose parents are seated. It takes away from a greater, it's like that greater good. It takes away many others versus the 60 that are late. Then sit it out, guys. And it's very clear that if you miss it, you can get your certificate for years and years. And
Tumza, this is where we'll end it. I think nothing
right.
more
She's
can
right.
be said. And she's now a first, she's what
She's telling you why
a first person account
gate is being closed, and that makes sense.
She was there, she was graduating, and it was unpleasant because of latecomers.
Anele and the club
On 947.